Hey chaps, and welcome back to almost regular programming. We are nearly back to how things were. A couple more days of babysitting for me and we are golden to start making videos and doing work again. It's just been a bit of a slow process because family commitments and things like that. I've had to actually basically only roll myself back to a couple hours a night and just get what I can done. But this video is going to be an update on a few cars and we will be putting in a floor brace into that XW. So we'll get some rust repair. Well, it's not really rust repair, but we're getting some welding and some stuff, as well as a bit of an update on the fleet and some decisions I've made and how everything is going. First off, very impressed with how well that my latest purchase has gone. Pretty damn sure that Commodore, well, it's a Calais or Calais. Pretty damn sure that motor has spun a bearing. And after some automotive archaeology and detecting, I'm pretty damn sure that motor spun a bearing before it was damaged. It just makes too much sense to me. And I've worked in crash shops and I've seen stuff that's been a bit... You sure that's how that happened, buddy? It just makes sense to me that... I think if I had to take a calibrated guess, I would say that car was maintained for a good chunk of its life. Probably hand me down to somebody else. They used it, never trashed it, but never actually kept on top of its maintenance, and I'm pretty damn sure it ran out of oil and one of the bearings decided to do a few laps, and hence it's now got a rod knock. I've checked the oil and it's glittery, it's sparkly, it's like somebody opened a bag of glitter into the oil. It's incredible. So I'm like, well, it's either full rebuild or replace, but the problem is those motors are like $4 grand. Happened to be the most expensive one, and I didn't realise that Holden made like 4 different variants of those Allotech V6s. For those Ford people out there, there's a huge bunch of differences in them. I didn't even realise. I'm like, Holden, why? One's good, one's fine. No, 4 different variants, and they've all got timing chain issues. So that motor's got timing chain issues and a spun bearing, so that motor is pretty much bin material. However, the dents and stuff are virtually stuff all, and I reckon I'll fix those. I could fix the dents in that car in about 2 hours. I reckon it's not hideously damaged at all, which is another reason why I think something a bit questionable went on there. But that's done and dusted. Whoever owned it last time, but you know, whatever. That's just a suspicion. But yeah, enough about that. Let's get into some of the vehicle updates. Alrighty, as you can quite clearly see, we are starting to collect barn find dust. You know, it adds like 10 grand to the value of a car. Now, I did fire this up the other day for the first time in a month, and it still runs beautifully. The XC coupe, if you follow my Graham's Restorations Facebook page, that is coming back tomorrow. And is going to occupy this spot. I do need to get the quarter panel, just a rattle can of this green mixed up again. I just need to blow in that bit there from where we did that little repair. I also need to get this registered again, which is but a moment, it's just money. And I need to take it to the transmission shop and have them have a look at the transmission again, because, well, I didn't actually get it there last time. But it needs to go back and be tickled because it doesn't shift gears properly. I'm pretty sure it's the modulator on the trans, but considering it's got warranty on it and stuff like that, I am not touching it, because that's a pretty spectacular way to avoid your warranty. Even though I could probably fix it, I'm not going to, because I want it fixed for free. But other than that, the trans shifts good. I mean, it shifts, doesn't slip, doesn't do anything bad. It just doesn't change gears properly. You'll be doing 70 k's in first gear before it decides it wants to change gears, and then you're pretty close to 100 k's before it'll go into third, which is not particularly fun. So it's like, it shifts, but it's way up in the rev range. I don't know quite what it's doing, but it's still there, it's still looking lovely. a little bit dirty, but it's not going anywhere, it's just sitting. And I'll just get my mountains of EJ parts, spare doors and all sorts of good stuff. That's the bonnet for the XC coupe, a couple of spare doors that came with that EJ. Probably won't do anything with them, probably just once I've assembled my car in its final form, I'll just pluck all the good bits out and just throw the doors out. I think might be the best course of action for them. They're not very good at all, but yes. Alright, now the nose cone for the EJ has been stripped. I've assembled it onto the lower section. I have a brand new bottom piece to weld on that, but that has to go off to be blasted, that bit there. Same with the boot lid. Now, I was going to change the quarter panel on this car, but since separating the quarter panel from the frame, I've decided I'm not going to, because this quarter panel isn't good enough to go on. It's got rust through the wheel arch here, damage. So about all I'm going to do for this, I'm just going to slice off this little bit here, put this in the car, and I'm not going to put the whole quarter panel because I just don't think it's going to be necessary, and I'll show you why. Mainly because actually separating that off the frame was incredibly time consuming and it was a nightmare. So if I can just replace this bit, which is the worst of it, I can slice along this edge, because this is actually, the quarter panel is underneath the body about that far. So what I can do is I can slice this, hammer them back up, pull the overlapping piece of garbage off and re-weld that properly. And I think, plus the other quarter panel had rust all through here. I just don't think it's super necessary to change it. I've decided, after having a bit of a think and have a look at the other one, I'm not going to. And this is through the factory joint anyway, so all I've got to do to that is dig out all the bog, make sure there's no rust in there, re-tin it, and then lead it and put the lead back in, and then obviously fix the rust down there. I just don't think changing it is a smart move, after discovering how painful these are to actually remove off the car. I think just rectifying this person's rather less than desirable work and replacing this section here, I think I'll be actually in a better position than taking the whole thing off. Plus it means I don't have to drop the fuel tank, disconnect the fuel lines or anything like that. I can just tidy up what somebody's done. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because it makes more sense to me, and don't give yourself more work than it's necessary. My two headlight buckets, I need to repaint this one, because I dropped it shortly after painting it. Good one, Graham. The wheels and the front doors are back from blasting, but the doors will come back with that coupe tomorrow. Now, I did just paint these, but the insides, obviously, and I think I may actually get them blasted again and powder coated, because I'm not actually that happy with the finish, because the people who blasted them put epoxy on it, but I don't think the person who put the epoxy on I think he was fairly new at it, and he got runs and all sorts of stuff in them. I tried to sand them out, but they're still there. They're not on the other side, so if like, it's hard to see, but like, there's runs there. None of those runs are mine. That's the runs in the actual epoxy, and you can see it quite clearly there. And after having this one blasted, that rim is getting really, really thin where the valve is going, so I may not use that wheel. You don't really know how good they are until after you have them blasted. These three are pretty good. I just didn't want, I actually asked the wheels to be done in etch primer rather than epoxy, and the epoxy, once it goes off, it's really hard to sand, especially when it's on stupidly thick. So I've sort of got shot in the foot with that one a little bit. Either I'll leave them for a while and fix them up a bit later, or get them powder coated. That is the right colour, but I don't know. My brain wants this car to be pretty good, and I'm not happy with the wheels. I know that's kind of a stupid thing to go on about by now, but it does bother me, because I know I can paint without getting runs, but it looks like I got the runs in it. But anyway, enough about them. I may have to redo them and get them blasted and then powder coated, because at least if they get blasted again, it'll get all the epoxy off, and then powder coating, I'm pretty sure. I think it's nearly impossible to get runs in powder coating, because it's powdered and then baked, and then somehow magic happens and they become super glossy and really, really hard. So that's probably the path I may go down. I know it's doing work like 3 times over, but I really want this car to be good. And Peter's guard, I started the bodywork on that one, so everywhere you see that non-epoxy colour, which is the etch, had a bit of a tickle. Not requiring hardly anything. I do have to weld up this little baby hole here, and that's about it, and then I'll give him a bit more of a tickle, and then that guard is almost ready to go in 2-pack primer. So people keep asking about how the guard's going on. I work on them every weekend when I can, so stop asking, they're progressing. So yes, and we are actually doing some work on the blue Landau at home guards. They need to be stripped and redone. And over here we have been, I don't know if I showed it or not, but the bottom of the A-pillar is on, and I just replaced that and that, because that's just awful. It was rusty, and somebody had a fair go with a chisel in removing the piece below it, so I had to basically make a new piece, and I had to make it in 2 bits just because of that curve was a bit tricky to do. So all I gotta do is just do a couple more welds here in a second, and then we can go and put, wherever I've left it, the bracket that welds to the inside of this, and I need to re-drill, double check that the hole for the seatbelt bolt is in the right spot. I'll take my measurement off that side and transfer it to this side, and that's what we're gonna round out this lovely episode with. So first things first, take a measurement, make sure the hole is centered, finish up a couple of welds there, and then clean up the next piece and get it ready to weld in. And we'll probably drill 8mm holes from this side, put the brace up from the underneath, clamp it in, and then you can plug weld through from the top side, grind them flat, and it's in. And it's also got a weld to the inner sill panel as well. So everything's happening, and yeah, the XC coupe, when that comes back next week, we're going to be hammering into that car. That's the next one we'll be doing, and you'll see plenty of videos on that. So when I get into this in a second, we'll catch you up. Forgot to mention before, we have a new heater in the workshop. This is a full electric heater. It's 15 kilowatts. It runs off a 3-phase power point with the 4 big pins. This workshop is 250 square meat trays, and it is actually doing quite a good job of taking the chill out of the air. And if it's pointed at you, you are most certainly not cold. So if you have a big workshop and you can afford to run that thing, which we can't, but we do anyway, that makes life so much more bearable. Now, the most annoying fact is running out of welding wire with 4 welds to go. Not welding wire, welding gas. So that one, oh, well, it was more than 4 welds, but there's a stack under here. So we finished up through here, which is hard to see because I'm in the light. Through here, got the new brace on that goes under the car. I wouldn't have said it was an exactly great fit, because I had to bend this bit in a bit and this bit out a bit to get it to fit in the hole. And obviously I've got a bolt running through both of them to sort of line up the seat belt holes, not seat belt, seat rail holes. So line across there, perfectly square, and coming along quite well if I hadn't taken notice of the fact that I ran out of gas. And I've got to get back into the swing of doing rust repair videos, as I've sort of kind of forgotten a little bit. This is coming up quite nicely. These braces are actually pretty good value for money. They fit reasonably well, just a bit of tweaking and they go in. But all we've got left to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then stand the car up on its end and do the ones in there, and we're laughing, giggling like schoolgirls, you might say. So yeah, I think this is going to wrap up a reintroduction back into rust repair and a bit of a workshop update. Things are progressing along quite nicely, and next week we'll get back into the swing of things and get the good old stuff happening again. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. If you feel that way inclined to subscribe, please do. It always helps out. I don't normally say it, but it is very helpful if you hit that little subscribe button. Never thought I'd be saying that, but if you're not, please do, and we'll catch you on the next episode.